By the end of June, China's National Audit Office released its 2024 report on central and local government revenues and expenditures. The findings exposed a troubling array of misconduct by local governments, including falsifying data to secure subsidies, engaging in unauthorized fundraising, diverting funds intended for public welfare, and imposing arbitrary taxes. This report confirms long-standing concerns about the dire state of local government finances in China. It also reveals a callous disregard for public welfare, as these governments misappropriate funds designated for compulsory education, poverty alleviation, pension programs, and flood relief, resources critical to people's lives and safety. Some of the violations are so egregious they demonstrate a shocking indifference to human suffering. However, we must recognize that the issues disclosed in this self-audit by the Communist Party represent only what they are willing to reveal, a mere glimpse of the broader fiscal disarray in China. This raises the question, how much more misconduct remains hidden? In today's program, we will examine some of the most severe and representative cases outlined in the audit report. Let us begin with the taxation issues highlighted in the report. Last year, local governments collected 88.997 billion yuan in excessive or premature taxes and fees. These are taxes that individuals or businesses were not obligated to pay or were not yet due, yet governments demanded payment, often with added penalties for late fees. The audit specifically identified 28 provinces and cities where tax authorities overcharged or prematurely levied taxes, such as farmland occupation tax and value-added tax, along with penalties from 631 enterprises, amounting to 33.189 billion yuan. With 28 of China's 34 administrative regions implicated, this practice appears to be a widespread issue. Local governments have shown remarkable ingenuity in extracting revenue. Additionally, some regions converted land designated for free allocation into paid allocations, generating over 50 billion yuan in land transfer fees. The report also exposed violations of policies intended to support private enterprises through tax and fee reductions. Approximately 21,000 companies entitled to these benefits were deprived of 280 billion yuan in tax relief by local governments. The so-called people-friendly policies promoted by the Communist Party should be viewed with skepticism. Even if the central government under Xi Jinping were to distribute funds to the public, it is unlikely those funds would reach ordinary citizens. When local governments face financial strain, they prioritize their own interests over the well-being of the people. Next, we turn to the most outrageous findings in the report: the misappropriation of public welfare funds. Local governments have shown a blatant disregard for the needs of their citizens. For instance, pension funds have been misused, with 13 provinces named for diverting funds intended for pension payments to settle debts or cover fiscal deficits, totaling 40.6 billion yuan. Moreover, 20 provinces shifted their local pension contribution obligations entirely to the National Pension Fund, effectively burdening the entire population. This is one reason I support the growing reluctance among young people to contribute to Social Security. Not only is there uncertainty about receiving these funds in retirement, but the money is already being diverted. With over half of China's 34 provinces exploiting the pension system to offload their financial responsibilities, the system is being undermined by systemic corruption. Without even considering the challenges of an aging population, the pension fund's sustainability is in serious jeopardy. Even more alarming, 16 provinces collaborated with 90 intermediaries to siphon funds from pension programs. For example, the audit highlighted a case in Harbin's Aking district where since 2019, an intermediary bribed 4 public officials to falsify records, allowing ineligible individuals to enroll in the pension program. This scheme defrauded 115 million yuan from the pension fund, with the intermediary profiting 4 million yuan and the remainder likely pocketed by corrupt officials. Such practices were reported in 16 provinces, underscoring the audacity of these violations. Education funding is another area of concern. Last year's audit revealed that some local governments misappropriated meal subsidies intended for school children, sparking widespread outrage online. Unfortunately, this year's report shows no improvement. The audit found that 2,429 compulsory education schools suffer from inadequate conditions. Student dormitories are in disrepair, classrooms leak during rain, and cafeterias lack basic seating, forcing children to eat standing up. While the Ministry of Education allocated funds to address these issues, local governments diverted them for other purposes, such as corruption, debt repayment, or superficial projects. For instance, in a district of Daju City, Sichuan, rural schoolchildren are forced to sleep in crowded dormitories without hot water, while the same district spent millions on landscaping urban schools, purchasing ginkgo and banyan trees costing tens of thousands of yuan each. In Huairan City, Shanxi, funds allocated for building bathrooms for rural students were used to construct ornamental mountains, decorative lighting, and pavilions. Across 110 counties, 4.089 billion yuan in education funds were misappropriated, an unconscionable betrayal of public trust. It is notable that the misappropriation of education funds is particularly severe in less developed areas, such as rural regions. This mirrors the mishandling of poverty alleviation funds in previous years, which were similarly diverted by local governments. While cities like Shanghai and Beijing showcase China's prosperity, the struggles of rural communities remain largely invisible. Farmers in particular have been consistently marginalized by the Communist Party. The audit also revealed that 20 provinces withheld or misappropriated approximately 4.665 billion yuan in agricultural subsidies. In some cases, subsidy payments to farmers were delayed by up to 9 years, and certain grassroots officials fabricated false records to divert these funds into their own pockets. Even when such misconduct is exposed, the funds rarely return to the farmers. To those seeking to understand the true state of China, whether from Taiwan or elsewhere, I encourage you to look beyond Shanghai and Beijing. Visit places like Yunnan, Guizhou, Sichuan, Henan, or Hebei to witness the realities of rural China and gain a fuller understanding of the country's challenges, rather than being swayed by propaganda. Perhaps most shockingly, funds allocated for flood relief, resources intended for disaster recovery, have also been misappropriated. In 2023, the central government issued 1 trillion yuan in special treasury bonds, including 352.7 billion yuan for post-disaster reconstruction. However, 13 provinces diverted 5.7 billion yuan to address their fiscal deficits, and 10 provinces fabricated projects to siphon off 26.7 billion yuan. While we may not be surprised that these governments are capable of such actions, seeing the figures in the report is still deeply unsettling. Diverting funds is one matter, but misappropriating resources meant for disaster relief and children's education, issues tied to life and safety, is a profound moral failing. The audit report also sheds light on the chaotic state of local government debt. Xi Jinping's debt resolution initiatives have proven ineffective, as 6 regions were found to have falsified debt records, converting government debt into corporate debt, or using new loans to repay old ones, falsely resolving 2.32 billion yuan in debt. Furthermore, local governments continue to accrue hidden debts. For example, in Linyi City, Shandong, state-owned enterprises were used to finance a university branch campus with 1.6 billion yuan, a clear example of hidden debt creation. Additionally, local governments have resorted to illegal fundraising. 11 regions and 15 financing platforms borrowed funds through non-standard financial products, raising 150 million yuan in hidden debt from over 1,600 individuals, 45 public welfare organizations, and village collectives. In Xinjiang, Fujian, since last September, authorities borrowed 1.502 billion yuan from 9 provincial charities, including organizations like the Red Cross and associations for the disabled. Similarly, 18 state-owned enterprises in 17 regions used village collectives as fronts to illegally secure 4.666 billion yuan in agricultural loans to service their own debts. State-owned financial institutions have also engaged in widespread data falsification, colluding with local governments to facilitate illegal fundraising, and enable financing platforms to borrow from the public, with 24.7 billion yuan implicated in such schemes. Additionally, bad loans have been concealed. The Agricultural Development Bank of China and the Export-Import Bank of China failed to classify 19.38 billion yuan in loans as non-performing. 3 other local banks used tactics like extending repayment deadlines to hide 31.8 billion yuan in bad loans. Fraudulent lending by policy banks is another significant issue. Over 4 years, the Agricultural Development Bank of China issued loans to 270 companies with falsified documents. A bank should detect such discrepancies, so being deceived 270 times suggests internal collusion. The report also noted that Xi Jinping's prioritized dual-heavy, dual-new projects have been exploited by local governments, diverting significant funds. The audit highlighted notable corruption cases, such as that of Ling, a former director of Jiangsu's Securities Regulatory Commission, who colluded with listed companies to profit illegally. Financial corruption has been a focal point recently, with the heads of Zhejiang's 4 major state-owned banks and the vice governor overseeing finance all arrested in a sweeping crackdown. From May last year to the present, the audit identified over 1,400 individuals involved in corruption cases totaling 63 billion yuan. In comparison, last year's audit uncovered 1,200 corrupt officials. This suggests that corruption among Chinese officials is escalating despite Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign. How is it that corruption continues to grow despite these efforts? In China, the greatest hardship faced by ordinary citizens stems not from natural disasters but from human actions. The financial misconduct revealed in the National Audit Office's reports represents only a fraction of the problem. As local governments face increasing financial difficulties, they resort to deceiving both the central government and the public. Xi Jinping's touted achievements, poverty alleviation, agricultural subsidies, tax reductions, and fee relief, have proven hollow. While the central government makes grand promises, the funds rarely reach the people as local governments divert them to cover their deficits. A few years ago, we were stunned to learn that local governments were soliciting donations from temples. Now, they are borrowing from charity funds with no intention of repayment. I urge you to reconsider donating to Chinese charities, as these contributions are not serving the public good but rather aiding local governments in managing their debts. For those in China, it is worth questioning whether continuing to pay into Social Security is prudent, as pension funds are increasingly vulnerable to exploitation by local authorities. Thanks for watching and joining us on this journey to unveil China's many layers. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated. See you in the next video.